The air in the dining room crystallized as my mother-in-law's words registered. I only ordered for family. My throat constricted as 7 perfect fillet mignons, rare and glistening, were distributed to everyone at the table but me. The imported French tarts followed the same path, one for each person except the woman who had spent all morning cooking, cleaning, and preparing this very meal. Time seemed to slow as my body registered the deliberate exclusion. The knife in my hand suddenly felt heavier. The laughter around me muffled like I was underwater. 7 years of marriage, and this was what I had become, the help who didn't deserve a proper meal at her husband's family table. Aunt Sharon, seated beside me, broke the silence first. "Vivian, didn't you make one for Megan?" Vivian's eyes skimmed over me like I was a smudge on her pristine tablecloth. "I only ordered for family," she repeated, the word family sharpened into a weapon. "My name is Megan. I'm 34 and an accounting officer. This is the story of how I finally stopped being invisible." I turned to Nathan, my husband of 7 years, who was studiously cutting into his steak, avoiding eye contact. "Am I family or not?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Nathan still wouldn't look up. He chewed slowly, methodically, as if my question were a minor interruption to his meal. "Don't do this," he muttered. "Not here." The first time I met Nathan's parents, Kevin and Vivian, I should have recognized the warning signs. We'd been dating for 8 months, and Nathan had described them as particular about the people in their social circle. I'd arrived in a dress I'd spent 2 paychecks on, carrying a bottle of wine I couldn't afford. Kevin had shaken my hand with the distant politeness one might offer a service worker, while Vivian's eyes had traveled from my shoes to my hair with clinical precision. "Oh," she'd said with manufactured surprise, "I thought you'd be taller." Later, when conversation turned to education, Kevin had leaned forward with exaggerated interest. "So, Megan, you didn't go to college?" The word "didn't" had been soaked in something between pity and disdain. I'd explained that I started working right after high school because my father had gotten sick and bills needed paying. Nathan had squeezed my hand under the table and later told me, "They can be a little much, but don't take it personally. They'll warm up to you." They never did. 4 years, I endured the 1,000 paper cuts of their contempt. Vivian bringing pastries just for Nathan when she visited. Kevin examining my paycheck that Vivian had somehow gotten her hands on, whispering, "She doesn't even manage investments." Nathan's sister Olivia, who'd never worked a day in her life, offering faux sympathy. I could never do all that grunt work. I found Vivian rifling through my dresser drawers once, claiming she was looking for napkins. She'd pulled out my bank ledger and clicked her tongue. "So little savings and no portfolio," she'd said to Nathan. "You should have married someone with at least a financial plan." Still, I tried. Every holiday, every birthday, every uncomfortable dinner, I showed up. Cooked, cleaned, smiled, poured drinks. One Christmas, I received a regifted candle while everyone else got tailored gifts with handwritten cards. No one noticed, not even Nathan. By our 6th year of marriage, I was the hired help with a marriage license. We didn't have children, but we had history. I clung to the hope that with time, things would improve, that we'd find our way back to those early days when Nathan looked at me with quiet admiration. Last summer had been the breaking point, or should have been. They'd planned a trip to a lakeside cabin. "Family getaway," Vivian had said, telling me to pack. I'd driven with Nathan to his parents' place, only to have them leave without me while I was in the restroom. "Just gone. Mom said it should be just family," Nathan had explained later, as if it were a simple fact rather than a knife to the heart. "But I'm your wife." "Yeah," he'd replied, "but you're not blood." I should have left then. Instead, I swallowed my pride and carried on, hoping things would somehow change. Then came the annual family lunch in August. Extended relatives flying in, a full house expected. My store had given the entire team 3 days off for wellness reform. I should have gone to the beach. Instead, Vivian had called the night before, "You'll help with prep. Guests expect a certain standard." That morning, I was up at 6 a.m. chopping vegetables, dusting china, vacuuming floors, wiping fingerprints off wine glasses. While Nathan and his parents sipped espresso on the patio, I ironed linen napkins. Olivia waltzed in at noon to remind me, "Don't forget the vegan option for Aunt Caroline," then disappeared again. By lunch, exhaustion had settled into my bones. My arms ached. My back throbbed. I hadn't even had coffee. Still, I greeted guests with a forced smile, ushered them to their seats, topped off drinks, reheated sauces. Nathan didn't help. When I asked him quietly to carry out the roast, he muttered, "You're doing fine." It wasn't until everyone was seated and food was being passed that I finally allowed myself to sit down. That's when Vivian stood. "I have a surprise," she announced, her voice dripping with sweetness, "just for family." Now, as I sat with no steak and no dessert, while everyone else ate, I could feel something shift inside me. 7 years of silence, of swallowing hurt, of making myself small, all of it crystallized in this moment of perfect clarity. "Ryan." Aunt Sharon's voice cut through the tension. "Your wife just asked you something." Nathan set his fork down with visible annoyance. "Don't do this, Megan. Not here. Not in front of everyone." "Oh, I think this is exactly the place," I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice despite my trembling hands beneath the table. Vivian gave a sharp little laugh. "Honestly, this is so beneath you, Megan. Making a scene over food." "Food?" I repeated. "No, this isn't about steak or desserts. It's about how I've been treated for 7 years. Like a tenant in your son's life. Like the outsider you all never wanted." Kevin scoffed. "No one ever said you weren't welcome." "No," I countered. "You just said I wasn't educated. Not polished, not family material. You said it with every side eye, every backhanded compliment. Every time you went through my private things looking for reasons to belittle me." Olivia snorted. "You're being dramatic." I turned to her. "You've never worked a day in your life. I've carried this marriage financially for nearly a year while your brother lies about going to work every morning. So I think I've earned the right to be dramatic." Nathan's head snapped up. "Megan, shut up." "Or what?" I asked. "You'll lose your precious image? Hate to break it to you, but everyone's about to find out you haven't had a job since last fall." All eyes turned to Nathan. Vivian blinked rapidly. "What is she talking about?" Nathan stammered, but no words formed. I leaned forward. He was fired from the city clerk's office after a massive error in the tax forms. They sent hundreds of residents incorrect invoices, some underbilled by thousands. Nathan was in charge of final reviews. He didn't tell you because, well, you were too busy judging my coffee. "That's not true," Nathan said quickly, but his voice lacked conviction. "Since then," I continued, "I've paid every bill, every grocery run. I've covered rent, utilities, car maintenance, while he played job hunt on his laptop and secretly applied for positions he was underqualified for." A heavy silence spread across the table. Aunt Sharon looked down at her plate, then at Nathan. "Is this true?" Nathan stood abruptly. "This is insane. You're trying to humiliate me." "No, Nathan," I said. "You did that to yourself when you sat there and let your mother deny me a plate like I'm the help." Vivian slammed her glass down. "You don't talk to my son like that. And you don't talk to me like I'm disposable." I reached into my bag and pulled out a thin manila folder. It made a soft thwack when I placed it in front of Nathan. "What's this?" he asked. "Draft separation papers," I said. "I already spoke with an attorney. I'm not waiting for your permission." The room froze. Even Olivia stopped mid-bite. "You're overreacting," Kevin finally said. "Am I?" I turned to him. "You think I didn't notice the way you'd sigh whenever I walked into a room? The way you'd glance at my hands like you were checking for dirt?" Olivia jumped in, her voice sharp. "You're just mad because you'll never fit in with us. You never had class, Megan." I smiled slightly. "And yet, I'm the only one here who knows how to pay a mortgage. Vivian shot up from her chair. You think this makes you superior? You're a cashier's clerk. Accounting officer, I corrected her. At a chain that just promoted me to regional finance coordinator. And unlike your son, I actually read documents before I signed them. Nathan pushed the folder back toward me. You're not doing this. Oh, I am. His voice cracked. You really going to throw away our marriage because of one lunch? No, I said quietly. I'm walking away because I've been treated like a stranger in my own life. Because you let them grind me down until I forgot I had options. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Maybe he didn't. Maybe I hadn't let him. I turned to Aunt Sharon. I'm sorry you had to witness this. She placed her napkin down gently. Don't apologize, dear. You've shown more grace than most would in your position. Then she looked at Vivian. And you? You should be ashamed. You humiliated your daughter-in-law in front of your entire family. She's not my daughter-in-law anymore, Vivian spat. I nodded. And you'll never have the chance again. Nathan's voice dropped to a whisper. You really mean it? You're leaving me. I didn't answer. I just stood, walked to the kitchen, grabbed my purse from the hook by the door, and returned to the dining room. I'll be sending official papers this week, I said. Vivian folded her arms. Don't expect sympathy from anyone. Aunt Sharon stood. Actually, Vivian, I think you'll find the family feels otherwise. Vivian blinked. What do you mean? I mean, we are tired of the drama, the belittling, the cruelty masked as tradition. I won't be attending your Christmas brunch this year. You can't be serious. Sharon looked around the table. A few cousins nodded in agreement. I am. I turned to leave. Nathan tried one last time. Megan, don't do this, please. I paused at the doorway. You had 7 years to treat me like family, I said without turning. You chose silence. And then I walked out. The walk to my car was the quietest 10 seconds of my life. No shouting, no footsteps behind me, no last-minute apologies. Just the click of my heels and the rush of August heat rising from the driveway. I didn't cry. I didn't even look back. By the time I pulled into our driveway, my driveway now, I had already texted my lawyer to move forward. The folder was real. The conversations were real. I just hadn't expected to use them quite so soon. But I didn't need to wait anymore. The final straw hadn't been steak. It had been silence. Nathan's silence. That week was a blur of paperwork and iced coffee. I moved into the guest bedroom and kept my distance. Nathan kept trying to play it down like this was a fight, not a fracture. People divorce over cheating, not over lunch, he said. You're being theatrical. But something in him knew. He stopped going out, stopped pretending to job hunt. He just sat there. Meanwhile, I stayed busy. I accepted the promotion offer from my company's main office, regional finance coordinator, full salary bump, flexible work-from-home options. I'd be relocating in 3 months. I didn't tell Nathan. Why should I? What I did tell him was the court date. Our mediation was scheduled for September 9th. I'd filed no fault, but under the surface, there was plenty of fault. 3 days before the hearing, I got a call from Aunt Sharon. I just wanted you to know, she said. You weren't the only one who saw it. What they did to you at that lunch, that was a reckoning. Apparently, word had spread fast. The cousins and other in-laws who'd sat awkwardly through the meal were furious after I left. A few confronted Vivian directly, others simply left early. Sharon had shared everything with the rest of the extended family. Her words, she told me, were simple. You don't starve someone and call it hospitality. Vivian and Kevin had been politely uninvited from 2 upcoming weddings. Olivia, who'd once bragged that everyone wants her at events, hadn't received an RSVP in weeks. Reputation, it turned out, didn't come with immunity. And as for Nathan, he was unraveling. I came home one night to find him drinking on the couch, eyes glazed over. This is what you wanted, right? He slurred. Burn it all down. No, I said. I just stopped pretending the ashes were flowers. The day of mediation, he wore a too-tight suit and wouldn't look me in the eye. I wore navy blue, kept my hair up, and brought every receipt, transfer, and bank statement I'd covered during the year he was unemployed. My lawyer didn't have to say much. The numbers spoke for themselves. At the end of the session, Nathan looked at me like he might say something meaningful. Instead, he said, "I can't believe you're doing this to me." I stood. "No, Nathan. I can't believe you did this to me." When the divorce was finalized, I didn't throw a party. I went home, ordered Indian takeout, and slept for 12 hours straight. The silence felt different now. It felt earned. Weeks passed. Vivian tried damage control. She sent a vague apology email with phrases like "I'm sorry if you were hurt," and "we've all said things we didn't mean." I didn't reply. I archived it and moved on. The promotion meant I relocated 2 states over into a bright apartment with a southern-facing balcony and a dishwasher that didn't rattle. My co-workers sent plants and welcome baskets. My new manager said, "We've heard nothing but great things." It was the first time in years I'd been recognized for who I was, not who I wasn't. One night in late October, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. It was Nathan. His voice was quiet. "I just wanted to say I miss you." I didn't answer. I think we got lost. I should have said something that day. Should have stood up. "Nathan," I said, "you had 7 years." "I know." I was scared. "Of who?" "Your mother." "Of everything." There was a long pause. "I've been thinking about coming to see you. Talk face to face." I looked out the window at my new skyline. "No need," I said. Everything I needed to hear, I heard in that dining room. He didn't argue. Just let it hang. Before he could ask anything more, I added, "I'm not angry anymore, Nathan. I just don't belong to that life, and it doesn't belong to me." He exhaled. "So that's it." "That's it." Then I hung up. I stood in the middle of my kitchen for a few minutes, just listening. No shouting, no footsteps, no dry remarks or tapping nails. Just me, my apartment, and a basil plant that desperately needed watering. Some things don't need to be said out loud to cut you open. And some silences heal.